upper middle class, they don't reproduce enough. And then they come around after they hit the wall and they complain because they are not fertile enough to carry life, or they're struggling in the dating market, whatever. And then on the other side, with low SES minority brown women, we have a problem where they're having too many babies, right? And you would think the liberals would understand at some point that it is in fact a choice. These women have figured out one thing, at least, that they want those babies, that they want to be moms. It's not like an accident, okay? How the left uses poor brown women. Fabulous. Just lie on us harder. Aid, however, was not always distributed fairly. Families of color were largely left out of or actively blocked from government policy. The wealth gap continued, with race-based discrimination becoming a political talking point during Ronald Reagan's bid for the presidency in the 1970s. Politicians in the news media at the time profiled welfare queens, a stigmatizing term that described a single mother, often African American, who is allegedly manipulating the system to get more government aid, despite welfare fraud being relatively low. I'm gonna ask y'all a question, because I can't tell, I don't know what's the better word to say, if the better word to say is African American or black, because I don't know, because I'm Puerto Rican and I'm Latina, so I find that the word African American is kind of weird or off, you know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think, more particularly my black viewers. Let me know what you think is the better word for me to use, because I am actually interested in using the more real term, okay? All right. Moving on. So this is just a stigma about baby mamas, right? But baby mamas been around for a while, except they became way more prevalent after the introduction of birth control. And that is suspected to have something to do with the fact that birth control increased hookups so astronomically that it did result in more unwed mothers and in more terminations of pregnancy. And in the late 1990s, the economy was booming, and to many analysts, it looked as though the Clinton-era welfare reforms were a success. But when the financial crisis of 2008 hit, so that's under the Obama administration, an additional 1.5 million families with children living in poverty were created, making some wonder if the old framework was as reliable during the market turndowns as it was in times of success. Well, I would imagine if there's a recession that would also impact welfare. You get me? Okay, whatever. Critics argue that because the number of funds that states received in block grants had not been adjusted for inflation since the 1990s, states had significantly less money on hand to be able to meet welfare needs in a new era. In 2012, approximately 52.2 million people, or roughly 1 in 5 Americans, received some form of government assistance. According to the U.S. Census, children actually received the largest amount, with an average of 39.2% getting aid in a month, as compared to 16.6% of those ages 18 to 16, or 12.6% for those 65 and older. So there's always this misconception somehow about government assistance and how awesome it is. Now, the one thing, okay, SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SNAP is actually lit. And SNAP is lit because if you get Starbucks from inside of a grocery store, you can get it on SNAP. Right? So it's like, there are some luxurious things about it, but it's not what people make it out to be. Here's the other thing too. In a lot of states, when it comes to Medicaid, so Medicare is for the elderly. Look at the E at the end of Medicare, elderly. And then Medicaid is for the destitute, so for the poor. Look at the D at the end of Medicaid. In a lot of states, it's the children that get access to health insurance, not necessarily the mom. You guys having fun? Is this a fun stream to you? I'm just tired of these liberals, because I'm telling you, it is CEO Becky that wants to maintain her access to termination of pregnancy, but she want to use Marisol to get it. She want to use Kiki to get it. Fam, just say your agenda up front. Don't make me go Malcolm X on you. Like, really, just stop it. It's so rude. I'm tired of it. Like, look at these poor brown women. I'm like, okay, you mean the ones that are like actively choosing to be baby mamas, right? So that about catches us up to this book, because this book was rewritten in 2005, but they take a look at a couple of folks here. I'm trying to go through 162 low-income women at the turn of the 21st century. So this is the beginning of the 2000s and the 1990s, like what I was talking about, because that's actually my mom and my aunt's generation. Okay, because I had been wondering for a long time, where is the data on Puerto Ricans? Because a lot of this stuff sounds like the same problems the Black community have. I'm like, what is it? And then I found Thomas Sowell, and Thomas Sowell confirmed a lot of things that I believed, that we are, in fact, like, have very similar stories in terms of how our communities have been impacted. But I get so sick and tired of the left trying to be like, these poor brown women, they're getting pregnant on accident. They don't have access to termination. I'm like, y'all are just rude because you think we're too stupid to go to the doctor? We'll do this. Okay. 2 sources here. Let's do the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, because this plays into the single motherhood stuff, believe it or not, right? Because like I said, it wasn't always like this. The Latinos were getting married and Blacks were getting married too. But when you have the welfare state and a bunch of jobs go away, and I mean, birth control too. I think that's an added factor. You get all 3 of these things and you get baby mamas. Okay. Remove morality. We're just talking about a phenomenon. All right. So we have over here 40 years of falling manufacturing employment. Okay. Despite being a leading driver of employment growth for decades, manufacturing has shed employment over the past 40 years as the U.S. economy has shifted to service-providing industries. That's what we have going on right now, service providing. That is how I am somehow able to stream and make a supplemental income on that. This is considered a service, right? There's other kinds of services too. You're going to start to notice that people have very specialized jobs, because think about your grandparents' generation. What were some primary jobs for them that seemed like a lot of people had? For example, in my family, my grandma was a seamstress. She knew a lot of seamstresses. I don't know what sort of, in your families in the chat, put down what were some professions that you noted that your grandparents had. I know for my husband, his father's generation, a big thing for them in their area was working on railroads, right? So these things, they used to be the standard job per the location, but they stopped being the standard job per the location. I want to say we get to the 2000s to the 2010s, and then we have all these very niched professions that haven't existed before, right? Okay, so in June 1979, manufacturing employment reached an all-time peak of 19.6 million. In June 2019, employment was at 12.8 million, down 6.7 million, or 35% from the all-time peak. Since 1979, employment fell during each of 5 recessions, and in each case, employment never fully recovered to pre-recession levels, meaning the economic hit from these recessions was so significant that they weren't able to recover, right? Okay, moving on. This Beyond the Numbers article, there's an article for you guys to look at, I think, looks at the broad employment trends in manufacturing over the past 40 years, as well as the trends in specific industries that have been most affected, such as fabricated metals, so steel. I know that steel was a big deal in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, so we have that. And then apparel and textile industries. Data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics Current Employment Statistics Program. So, okay, we're getting this information from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So, steady cyclical growth from 1939 to 1979, employment in manufacturing. Over here on the left, we have 1939, and then we have manufacturing employment. We start to see there's a big dip around the 80s. And I think that's when it starts essentially trending downward, right? There's a big jump from the we start to see the decline of manufacturing in 1998, and it goes further than that. So that's what I'm saying is you basically have this powder keg of baby mama, perfect conditions. The jobs are gone. The jobs that men could support one family on and the economy facilitated that, gone, right? Then we also have birth control, but birth control has been around since the 1950s, contrary to popular belief. That is another aspect to it. And then we have the welfare state, which enables women to choose to be baby mamas. Okay? So removing morality from it, it doesn't have to be, if you just remove the morality from it, basically, these women have the same urge that the majority of women have, which is motherhood. They want to be moms. Are they knuckle-dragging idiots, or is this like an adaptation and a new life course for low SES Black and brown women? And I say this because the left constantly uses these women. I know this is a white woman on the cover. She's probably Italian. She could be Puerto Rican, Italian, whatever. Certainly from New York City. So the left uses these women to justify so many misconceptions that would preserve their ability to maintain access to things like termination of pregnancy. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. It's a choice, okay? Because what's the next thing? Oh, they don't have access. Interesting, because Margaret Sanger made sure specifically that Black and brown women had access to termination of pregnancy, because the first Planned Parenthood, I'm going to pull it up for you guys right now. Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood, located Brownsville. All right. Well, what an apropos name. It's still in Brooklyn. Brownsville is in Brooklyn. We can see that here, right? I almost wonder if this eugenicist lady, did she choose Brownsville on purpose? Like, was this her goal? Right. So this argument about these poor brown women, they don't have access. We've always had access because they were trying to exterminate us. Like, make it make sense, y'all. Make it make sense. I can't. We're going to go by the numbers too. And the reason why race matters in this conversation is because, more specifically, I have seen a lot of white liberal academics, or not academics, but just a lot of white liberals, they want to come out, talk about people they don't know. So, like, how would you know? If you don't know them, if you didn't live there, how would you know? Because like I said, by, I want to say, the 7th baby mama, you kind of start wondering, this is on purpose. Aside from that, we're looking at this life cycle of single motherhood as a choice. And this involves teen pregnancy too, okay? Because there's cultural reasons why some demographics wouldn't terminate. I know for Latinos, we have a very Catholic background, we have a very Christian background. So yes, we're less likely to terminate. Now, do I see that increasing as where we become more acculturated to American culture? Absolutely. I see that, like, for sure it's increasing. But I'm not sure how that would work out for the Black community on that. Like, when that is started to become socially acceptable. I know for sure in my community we've got the Catholic and the Pentecostal roots. So that's what I'm saying, where you would think, oh, like these Latino Christians, they would be so mad if their daughter got pregnant on accident. They would get mad, but they wouldn't tell her to delete the baby. It's different. It's very different. Okay.